Welcome to Life It with DVD. Welcome back. Thanks for being here. Today I wanted to talk about an elaboration on the video I had done 2 days ago because I got the elaborated video up yesterday. However, I realized that I had no sound on it because I had switched my mics out the other day. So I was like, this is so frustrating. But I wanted to talk about something that is kind of in line with just the frustration of something not working and it just not working out the way that you expect. And that is the drama in your head. And this is kind of a part two of the video I had done 2 days ago that just goes into how we like to make stories up in our heads about why things are not working out. Trying to assign meaning to situations, to things that happen that really don't help us in the end, besides end up victimizing us in our own minds, right? So what I mean by this is we play out a drama in our head on a regular basis when we assign meaning to things in the world. Now, this can become a look of victimization where we want to blame external people or external situations for what has happened to us, or we can internalize this dialogue to where we are no longer blaming that we're angry with somebody else, but we're actually angry at ourselves, right? We've become a victim. And this has happened to me a lot, right? Anytime that we complain that we are, things are a certain way, or you are pitying yourself, or you feel guilty, or anything like that, that is a form of you not dealing with the situation and being present with it, with what's happening and the way it is. You're not taking responsibility for your own emotions. You're either directing those emotions on your own inner self, or, well, the alternative is externalizing it, being angry, blaming somebody in the outside world, and taking it out on somebody else when they don't necessarily, they're not responsible. Ultimately, we are responsible for the emotions, the drama that we create in our own heads. And this has been an important shift in realization that has helped me a bit, I think, over the past few weeks and days to realize that we are the playwrights to our own story. So when I look at the dialogues that go on in our minds, ultimately there is usually some form of fall from grace, a rock bottom sort of process, and then a redemption arc, right? That is one of humanity's greatest stories that we often associate with and like to tell ourselves. And that story, that, three-part shift of, heading down and back up is ultimately a positive story. However, there's other stories that we tell ourselves that are much more prevalent in society today that are just constantly negative and take us into a just straight down spiral to some of the more depressing and futile emotions that we often experience. And these stories where it's just pity, right? It's just people that are helpless, feel like they're the constant victim. These are the stories that we need to try to get out of our head by shifting our awareness into, we have written this story. And even though it might seem like we haven't, our mind is insanely powerful because it assigns us the beliefs that we have today. It assigns every single belief that we have had throughout our entire lives. Now, when a situation happens to you where you make sense of it, it was a bad thing, you were the victim, right? Objectively, something bad happened and you couldn't have changed it one way or another. When those things happen, well, sure, we can interpret it as we are the victim. However, that's not very empowering, right? That doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to us. It doesn't feel good to anybody, because then ultimately we will take that emotion and spread it everywhere else for others to, experience, and that's not good either, right? You don't want to be taking your pity elsewhere to other people, because that will affect other people. Now, it might not affect everybody, but the onus comes back to us. What are we telling ourselves? What beliefs are we telling ourselves? What are the internal dialogues and the thoughts that we're having that are triggering these emotions that are less than empowering, right? So it's important to realize in any of these situations that we are not the victim, right? We've made ourselves the victim, the protagonist in the story, in our head, right? We're the one that is on stage to ourselves, feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this has happened to me. You're complaining, you're blaming, you're looking for anything out of the uncomfortable emotions. And when this happens, it just goes back to remembering, being conscious and aware of the fact that you have assigned the meaning to what has happened in the world, or even in your own mind, in your head. You have assigned that meaning. Now, there are tons of different meanings that can be assigned to any situation. That anything anybody else does can mean about 100 different things. It doesn't mean it's just one thing. But in our heads, we often associate it with one thing. So, with all of these things where you feel you're less empowered, you have bad or limiting beliefs, you have barriers, obstacles that you just can't seem to overcome, if you shift your awareness into, I am the playwright, I am the person that has written this story in my head that is just taking me down into a pit of despair, once you become aware of that, consciously aware of that, you can then start to question all of these beliefs, all of these stories that you have told yourself, and where they have taken you. And when you drill down into them, you'll often find limiting beliefs like, oh, I'm not enough. I'm not important enough. What I have to say, nobody cares about, right? These sorts of things that, once again, less than empowering, limiting beliefs. And what you might find from the situations where, when you dig into it, what belief, what do you think and feel that is true, right? There usually is something tied to it. Maybe you can't find, an emotion or a situation where that, story played out, but often you can. And you need to go back into that situation, as uncomfortable as it might be in your head, and try to think about what else could that have meant. Were those people that were upset with you or that had done those things to you really doing it about, to you or because of you? Or did you just make that story up in your head? Now, I know this is a hard thing to kind of break down and unpack, but it does take some digging into. I'm going to be honest, this is not an easy thing to do. However, shifting your awareness into the realization that you are in control of this story is a very powerful thing, because it can take you out of the past, out of even the future where you are limiting yourself, censoring yourself, shutting yourself down, telling yourself that you can't do certain things, and bringing yourself back to the moment where, hey, this is just you telling yourself a story. Now, I know these stories are very addicting, and it's insanely hard to break some of these molds, but the more that we become aware of these things, the more we can take back our power in the current moment And when we do that, it'll stop us from procrastinating and not taking action on the things that we know, if we can feel it in our body, the things that we need, that we want to be doing, right? The things that are going to give us more energy in the outside external world. And not only that, but share our internal gifts with the world. So this is just one method that has helped me to try to shift my focus, shift my consciousness into a more positive mindset instead of letting that unconscious, subconscious story that just plays itself sinisterly out and creates all of those obstacles and barriers that make you procrastinate and make you not take the action that you need to. It just makes you more aware of it so that you can then be back in the current moment and focus on, what do I want to do right now? And this is an incredibly powerful technique. So I just wanted to share that with you today. Obviously, it takes work. I am obviously working on this as well. I'm doing it actively with this channel. It's not easy for me to get these videos out sometimes, and I have my own creative blocks and reasons why I procrastinate. So ultimately, it's all a work in progress, but we're all trying to improve, right? We're usually all trying to get to a certain place that we want to be, to showcase our gifts, and to be the best version of ourselves. And that's not only an honor to ourselves, but an honor to everybody else that can benefit from hearing our message and our expertise. Even if that is through a struggle and a self-sacrificing story, or something that doesn't feel like it is an expertise, right? Sometimes the struggle is the story, and that redemption arc, right, is what we are trying to get back on, right? But it's definitely a more empowering story than the blame, shame, guilt, victim role that often our society promotes, as well as the programming from society and everybody else that has it gets into our own heads, and then we're telling ourselves as well. So, yeah. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. I appreciate you being here and watching. And yeah, I hope I did this video justice compared to the great one I thought I filmed yesterday. It feels pretty good, so we'll see. But until next time, I will talk to you later. Bye.